Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to make some cards taking inspiration from Christmas decorations. This weekend my husband and I decorated our porch and I thought it was so pretty. We did more in decorating out front than we've ever done before, and I think it's honestly because I've decluttered so much in my house that I'm actually looking forward to filling it up with Christmas decorations. So I'm going by some of my favorite looks that I have on my front porch, my little Christmas trees, my lamppost, and my wreaths, and we're going to use that as inspiration for our cards today. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a little round, this is a lid for an inkwell I have, and just draw that circle for the base of my wreath. We can get all our bases done first. Whoops, that's not a pencil. Here we go. And that will give me something to go by, so I make sure my wreath is nice and round. You can always erase after you're done your stamping if you can still see your pencil lines. Now the other idea I had was to do like a little Christmas tree, and I have this little plant pot stamp from the Lots of Pots set from Rubber Stamp Tapestry. They're our sponsor. You can find these supplies at pegstamps.com. And I thought this would be cool for the little pot that the tree will come out of, and I'm just going to use this terracotta color. This is called Potter's Clay by Memento, and ink that up, and I'm going to just put that towards the bottom of this die cut here. These die cuts are by Spellbinders, and basically I just wanted to have something to confine my design with. I figured if I started on a card base or a larger piece of paper, I might go a little crazy and then have it too big for a card. And then the final thing I'm going to use is actually a moldy oldie. This is a lamppost stamp I've had forever from Ink and Do, and I figured I could stamp this selectively and then leave some areas uninked for where I want to have my greenery. And I'm going to want to do that in a very dark gray or black. I don't have my tiny little ink pad for black up here, so I'm just going to selectively try to ink it up and just leave some gaps for where I want to do my peg stamping. I think that's going to work out just fine. Maybe I will get those little flourishes in the black so it looks like it's on purpose. Okay, and we're going to stamp that on the final die cut. So whatever you have for decorations, let that be your inspiration. Like you could also do a kissing ball instead of a wreath. I made a bunch of those, but I thought the wreath was a little bit more iconic, and people might not know what the kissing ball is if they don't have one. So let's start off with the wreath. Now, I like to store all of my peg stamps together that are Christmas themed so that I can easily pick out what I want. And then I set that on top of my big box of peg stamps so I can always reach for them. And I've picked out a few that I think would work really well for this project. I'm starting off with a few shades of green. I've got Bamboo Leaves, which is my lightest. I've got Forever Green, which is kind of in the middle, kind of an olivey color. And then I've got Northern Pine, which is almost like a black gray green. I realize that can be a little difficult to see, so hopefully you can see the lids there. And I'm going to start off with, oh, I also want a nice red, and I think I'll use this Red Royale. And I want to do a bow first because I want to make sure that's going to stand out. So I'm inking this up. I'm going to test it on a scrap. It looks good. Because you never know if you haven't used an ink pad in a while. I want to put that right in the front. Because this is kind of a large focal point. I want to make sure that that's going to show up. And I'm also going to keep this handy just because I'm going to use that for berries in a minute. And we'll also need a brown for some pine cones. And I think I might go a little bit lighter just to make sure it, has a little bit of difference. So as I'm stamping, I'm going to make sure that I leave some spots for these different elements. I'm going to start off with this kind of thicker branch from Embellished Holiday Wreath. And you can mix and match your sets, or you could just stick to whatever set. If you just have one set, use that one set, because I bet you'll have plenty in there to work with. So I'm keeping these fairly close together. I'm looking at the line on the side of my stamp to figure out where the branch is going to start. And I'm just working my way around the wreath. And then don't worry if you have one that's not perfect. By the time you're done filling this up, it really doesn't matter. Then I'm going to go in with I think I'll use this fuller branch here, and I'm going to go in with the Forever Green because that's probably my favorite color out of all of the options here. and I'm just kind of filling in a little bit. I will grab these like little mini ink pads if I see them like on sale. I really like the mementos because I can get reinkers for them, but if I see a color that I don't have and it's on sale somewhere, I'll grab it just so that I have that option. And now before I do the last sprig, which will be this tinier like little fir sprig from Christmas time, I'm going to put in some little berries, and I'm going to do that with that same Red Royale. And just turn the, I would, even though there's a registration mark and there is like a little stem placement, I do try to turn it a little bit because I don't want everything to be like lining up like soldiers. I want to make sure there's some, a little bit of randomness to it. And I also want to get a couple pine cones in there. Hopefully they'll show up. I'm going to test this color on a scrap. It's pretty light. I think I'm going to use two colors. I'm going to first ink it up with the, oh, you know what? I can see that I have extra space on there because I can see there is wet ink on that. I'm just going to trim that off. Some of these are newer and I haven't had a chance to trim them. And I'm going to go in with this espresso truffle. So I'm going to have two colors on the pine cone because it just looks kind of bland. Oh, that's going to look good. Okay, so light color, rock the edge of it in the darker one. And let's see, we'll throw these wherever we can kind of nestle them in. Because, I mean, often when you do a wreath, if you're making a wreath, like the little pine cones and stuff, they'll be kind of tucked in here and there. And remember, we still have some more greens to fill in, so if it looks like it's kind of sticking out like a sore thumb, don't worry, it'll be fine. And then if you do want to go on top of something, just ink it up with a darker color on its own. And now I'm going to take that last green and we're going to go in with this tiny little sprig from Christmas time. And we are going to just do a little filling in. And this is where you can make your wreath bushier if you want. You can actually go in with some of the other colors too if you feel like you weren't quite balanced when you stamped it the first time. And I like this little one because you can turn it around and use it all sorts of ways. Now look at that. I didn't trim that one either. You can see that's what happens when you don't trim off the excess rubber on the sides if you do have a stamp that doesn't fill the whole area. But that's alright because you can always stamp something over that, like a berry or another little, oops, I just used a color, different color. Well, I'll put that on top of there. So you can like stamp on top of it and disguise it pretty well. So don't worry about that. It's handmade, so it'll still look unique, and everyone's going to be a little different, and that is fine. And there is our wreath. I think it looks really pretty, and we didn't have to do anything complex like masking, and I think it's just as lovely as the wreaths on my front porch. So the next thing we are going to do is our little sprig here, our little lamppost with the greenery, and we're going to use the same techniques and these same stamps. I'm going to start off with that bow because my lamppost does have a little bow on it, and I'm going to do that in the red. And we'll put that right up close to the top. Oh, so pretty. I love it. And the thing that I do like is that when you have a bunch of different sizes like this, you can fill in. You don't have to do any masking, which is really nice. And I don't know if I have quite enough room for a lot of these fuller branches, but I do want to get some for scale. So I'm going to do some of those down here. So you can look at like what you have for different vessel stamps, what I mean like pots and urns and things like that. And you can, make your own sort of holiday wonderland and arrangements. Like up here, that would be a little too big to try to sneak up there. So I'm just going to use this tiny one. And if I need to have some variety, I'll just switch up my ink color so that I have a little bit of different stuff happening. And I love how you get a completely different look, especially when you mix different brands of stamps, because you'll end up with, with two things that people may have never even put together before, and it's going to look completely unique. I think I'm going to use this down the bottom because I think having a little bit of a dark element there might be nice. So I just want to make sure I am letting those, because they almost look branchy, that I'm letting kind of come out from the bottom as if there's like a little pot there or something. And then I'm just going to throw in some little berries and call that done, because really, I don't think it needs much more than that. Whoops. I might need another piece of greenery because I got a little crazy with that berry there. So let's go in with our tiny little sprig that we used up top, because remember that's a really great filler. And just put a couple little sprigs just to fill in a little bit. So we can do some more coloring on that, but there is our lamppost. I think that is so pretty and looks so festive. And then last but not least, we will do a Christmas tree. And again, you want to use any of your full fir stamps. And I'm just going to keep using the same ones just because I have them out, and you know, it's just easier to do that. And I think I might start by building with this thicker one here, just to kind of give me an idea of what I want to do for branches. I don't want to get too repetitive, but I think just having a little bit of guidance here would be helpful. That just gives us an idea of where we want to go with our other stamping, and maybe just one from the bottom just to give it a little fullness from the pot. And then we'll go in with our biggest stamp, because we like to work biggest to smallest, and I'm going to go with that forest green because I think it's such a lovely color. And I'm going to start building out. So we have a nice full bushy tree. But I do want to leave some gaps because we will have ornaments. You want to make sure that you have room for everything. And you can go, we'll fill in with that smaller branch again, but let's get some ornaments in here. I think I'll go in with that same red that we've been using first and get a couple nice big red ornaments. And because we have so much green going on, I think we should choose a color that's a little bit different. Like this peanut butter is kind of a gold color, and I think that might be nice for this round one here. Now, I'll show you my little test piece. I just have been like testing on the side there just to see how that looks before I put it on my card, because that can save your card. You know, just take a minute to test something and see if you like the way it looks, and that can really be a lifesaver. And now I'm going to go with just I want to use a bright blue. Again, I'm going to test it because I'm not really sure that's going to look. I think that'll look fine. You want some contrast, but you don't want it to look like it's like totally off the rails weird, you know? So you need that, a little bit of that balance. I think that's really pretty. I like that. I just have lights on that tree. It was a very inexpensive tree on our porch from Ocean State Job Lot, which is a discount store up here in Maine. And I was afraid if I put too much on it, if I put stuff on it, it was going to hide my, it was going to hide the lights because there aren't that many lights on it. So I get to do more in my cards than I get to do in real life. And of course, you get to do all the fun stuff without the heavy lifting of decorating. But before I decluttered my house, all I would do is just the cards. I would just be too overwhelmed. So it's been such a lovely change for me anyway. Okay, and there's that. So I'm going to put my ink pads away. Well, I'll get out a few coloring things so we can just put a few finishing touches on our stamped panels, and then we're going to turn these into some fabulous cards. I'm going to keep my coloring really simple. I'm just going to take a kind of an orangey yellow marker and just color in the top of my lamppost. If I feel like I need more when I put my card together, I can always do a little ink brush blending with a blending brush and some ink, but I think I like the white, and I'm going on pattern paper, so I think that might look really crisp and nice. So I'm not going to do that right now. Plus, when you're doing Christmas cards, oftentimes you are trying to save a little time. Now I'm going to use some alcohol markers here. I'm going to get in my darkest color, and this is dark suntan. It's kind of like a cinnamony color, like a sienna, like a burnt sienna color. Any brand is fine. I'm using Copics because I had the right color in a Copic. I'm a big believer in using what you have, and brush tip markers blend really well. Is this one lighter? Oh, I think this one's darker. But I'm also a believer in learning technique, because you can do just as much with a bullet tip marker as a brush if you spend time learning about it. So that was my darker one. I want to pull in a little bit more with this lighter one, medium tone, and then I'm going to go in with the lightest one and blend it a bit. Brush tips blend a little bit better because you have this larger, more flexible area to work with, but they do increase the cost of your markers quite a bit. So if you can learn the techniques to do it with a bullet tip marker, which are, you know, quarter of the price, that can save you some money, and you've learned something. It's fun. Okay, so now I am going to grab my supplies I've gathered to make my cards with. Basically, I have been working on this. I haven't found any pattern paper I really love lately, so I've been using up this set of these crepe paper. I think it's by Crepe Paper, Christmas paper that I've had for like the last couple of years because I can't find anything I like more, so I'm just trying to use up what I have. I thought this would be really pretty for the Christmas tree one, and gosh, I think the lamppost and the wreath, they could go either or. I think I like that on there and that on there. And speaking of using up stuff, I have these little plaques that I've had for years, and they say joy, believe, peace, and I want to use them on this card with some ribbon. And I also have this felt fusion stuff that I've been hoarding, and this is my cautionary tale about hoarding supplies, is that you will go to use them one day and you realize they don't work as good as they used to because like the adhesive's gone bad and it doesn't unstick very well. So so that's an issue. I have a drawer full of this stuff, and it's so beautiful, and I just hoarded it because it had to be the most precious, perfect thing for me to use it on. And what I realized after making a few scrapbook pages with this is that I had way overbought, and I was never going to be able to use it up. So I just need to, you know, just use it when I feel like using it. Now, a lot of this will get covered up with the felt, but like I mentioned before, it's use it or lose it. So I am going to put a strip of this on each of these cards, and it won't make you sit through my awkward peeling of this because, as I mentioned before, the adhesive has gone a little off on this, so it's kind of a pain to unpeel. So we'll see you back in a minute after I've got some of this unpeeled. Sometimes heating the back of something that's stuck like a sticker will help it release, so I'm hoping that will work in this event. That helps a little bit, so there you go. Try that if you have some stubborn stickers. You actually don't need to peel everything off because if you can just get it tacked down in a couple places, you'll be good. Heating this with the heat gun was definitely the best way to get the backing paper off. So if you do have some of this at home, that's my tip for you. It will really save your sanity a little bit. And then it was much easier to stick down. Rather than trimming it at the edges, which I did on the first one, I found that if I had enough that I could just kind of fold it over, it was a lot easier because once you've cut the backing off of this, it is kind of hard to cut with your scissors. It wants to stick to them, so just fold it. Give yourself enough space so you can just fold it over the back, and it'll work a lot better. So the other thing that I wanted to use was some ribbon, and I was just trying to decide whether I felt like there was enough going on there if I wanted to do something else. And I think I do. With these two, I feel like I need something else. With the wreath, I feel like it's fine because it has such an interesting detail around it, but I feel like there's a little bit too much space in there. So I'm just going to grab a scrap of paper and do a little ink blending and maybe a little stamping of some snowflakes in that same color. Even though snowflakes would be white, I don't want to deal with doing a resist because I've got, you know, that's kind of a involved process. So let's just do some ink blending. I think I'll use Paris Dusk because that's a nice kind of nighttime sky color. And I think I want to do like a little bit of like a rolling hill, just so it looks like there's some snow. I'm just going to cut a scrap of paper. Post-it note would be great, but I don't have one handy right now. I'm just going to set that there. Now, because this is not a really intricate design here, I'm not going to bother trying to like mask. I'm just going to try to avoid hitting the design while I'm brushing. I'm just going to brush from the outside in, and that will keep me from getting any big blobs on my paper. You could do a little brushing on with yellow around the post if you want, around the lamp part if you wanted to. I'm just going to do some snowflakey star shapes here. And that's just going to fill in really nicely, I think. And you can use whatever snowflakes and stars you have. Like I mentioned before, I like to keep all mine together because I find they're so much more useful if I can just see what I have and grab whatever fits the size that I want. And there we have that one there. I'm going to do the same thing here, just to give us a little bit of interest. And there we go. Just took us a couple seconds, and it gave us just a nice little something extra. You could also do a little bit of shadow, so you get that kind of sky color on the snow reflecting a little bit. Not a lot, just to give it a little bit of like it's obviously snow, and these are obviously casting a shadow. Now we're going to assemble our cards, and that'll be pretty much it. So I'm going to start by sticking down these panels to my layering panel. So I have 4.5, I have 5.5 by 4.25 top folded cards that I've already made. These panels are 4 inches by 5.25, and I'm going to decorate the panels first just by adhering on the images here that we just stamped over our felt. And you can use double-sided tape for that. Just, you know, give it a good amount since you have that felt to stick to as well. And now we are going to put our charms on using some thin ribbon. This is just about 1/8 inch narrow ribbon. You can get it at the craft store. They often go on sale for like $4 or $5 for $1, so I would wait and just kind of stock up then. Otherwise, there's like 50 cents a roll, so it's not that expensive, you know, to get a spool for a project. So actually, that's probably what you should do. You probably shouldn't stock up, because that's how you get in this situation where you have a zillion containers of... oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to cut the entire ribbon. I was going to tie it around, but you know what? You know what, let's do that for this one. The other ones we'll tie around. That'll work. I'm just going to use some heavy-duty adhesive for this. Score tape is excellent because it just sticks really well, and you can tear it. You don't have to cut it with your scissors and get your scissors all yucky, because adhesive on scissors can be difficult to remove. That's why I didn't want you cutting the felt, because it just can get kind of yucky. I'm going to have this a little bit off-centered. And then we'll just adhere that to our card base. Just leaving a nice border all the way around. And look how nice and clean and tidy it looks. We'll finish up the other two by actually wrapping the ribbon around and tying on the little plaques. So just... don't cut the string yet, Lindsay. Just trim the ends when you're all done. Alright, so tie one end and then wrap it around. And then clip your string and tie the other end. It's hard to get a tight knot. You might need to still use a tape. Oh shoot. Oh no, I tore my card. I'll just slide that down below the tear. Oh, that's bad. Maybe you want to go with the first remedy that I showed you and not try this. This is some advanced crafting we got going here. Yeah, we're just gonna use a little tape behind that, and nobody's gonna know that we completely botched that card, because you won't see the tear. Well, we'll hide it. We'll hide it well. So when I put adhesive on the back of this, I'm just going to try to snug up the ribbon, so any gap will just be on the back and you won't see it, any ribbon gap. And that's going to be fine. Hey, mistakes happen all the time. The important thing is you just move on and learn from them, and don't repeat them, but if you do repeat them, you'll know how to fix them. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other card, and that will be how we made this batch of cards. I am curious to know, and I would love for you to tell me in the comments below, what's your favorite Christmas decoration? Maybe it's a childhood decoration, maybe it's a decoration you put up now that you're grown up and have your own home. Let me know in the comments below. If you want to find any of the products I used today, make sure you check out our sponsor, Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find them online at pegstamps.com. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you get your Christmas cards out in the mail soon. I know I'm going to try to get that done this weekend. And until next time, happy crafting.